family when Margret was assured of coming. We also knew that her daughter, Mary Lou Pentelow, was coming, and also Lawrence Pentelow, her son-in-law, who many people know through Crieff Hills community. The surprise, when I think I got here a few days ago, was her other daughter being here, Cheryl Knight. And I'm especially pleased about that because when I first went to York College, Cheryl was in residence there. And so I got to know Cheryl, and then I got to know about her wonderful mother. So I went to York College in 1966, and that was just shortly after York College was actually a building. Those people who thought it couldn't be done were wrong. And it was through the efforts of Margret Taylor that that building was built. And also, I believe that really solidified a legacy of Christian education within the Presbyterian Church in Canada. Margret crisscrossed Canada by any mode of transportation to present her vision of Christian education. She was the first woman to be appointed to the board of the Missionary and Deaconess Training School. Now you know why they changed it to York College. And she was later chair of that building committee. And she was a groundbreaker within our church. Margret says that she, if she would have been asked, could she do these things, she would have said no. But people recognized that this woman had special gifts of leadership. And so they just sought her out. She ended up being the first woman to chair an assembly board of the Presbyterian Church in Canada. And she served on a number of national boards and committees within our church as a member, and then ultimately, usually, as a chairperson. And very often, she was the only female member on those boards. She also chaired an important task force for our church many, not those many years ago, Margaret, sorry. It was called the Liberty of Conscience as it pertains to the ordination of women. And this committee must have been after 1966 because that's when we ordained women. And there were still people who felt that that should not be. And so this committee actually said, well, you can have liberty of conscience, but you can't act on your conscience, I guess, basically. Is that a way to put it, Rick? All right. Anyway, so it was a very important committee for our church to establish. Margret also served as a member of the Canadian Advisory Council on the Status of Women. And when I talked to her, she said, it was on that committee that the women who were on that committee were professionals. I was just a homemaker. Just a homemaker. Now please remember, Cheryl and Mary Lou and their brother were all growing up, mostly at the time when Margret served on these committees. And so we thank their families, Margaret's family, for allowing Margret to do all of this. Margret had a wonderfully supportive husband as well. Even now, Margret is a role model and an inspiration to all women. She is well loved in her home congregation at Gale Elmira. We are so happy to give a donation in Margret's name to Crieff Hills Community, which is beginning a fund to be used to make the conference hall an accessible building for all. Congratulations.